Welcome to my channel. My name is Elizabeth Cunningham. I work with the LGBTQIA plus and also non-monogamous communities in their relationships. And today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different, which is just speaking to the collective and speaking whatever is on my heart, whatever is coming through, having more of a soulful conversation, soulful connection with you all. One of the things that I wanted to do on this channel was to have relationship education. And so I've been making those videos and I'm going to be continuing to make those videos. Actually, on the topic of relationship education, I am going to start making mini courses on YouTube because my mission is to make relationship education as accessible as possible, especially for LGBTQIA plus people and especially for non-monogamous people. And so I have a survey for you all. I sent it out to my newsletter. So also if you want to sign up for my newsletter, you can do that too. But I sent it out to my newsletter because I wanted to see what people would be interested in me teaching about. I have been working and studying and getting degrees, certifications, trainings in this field for the past 15 years, more than 15 years, 15 plus years. And so I have a lot of knowledge and education around this, and I wanted to start really building my portfolio, so to speak, on YouTube of how to have healthy relationships. And if you look at the survey, there's 11 different topics that I have broken things down into. And I'm curious what you want to have more education around so that you can deepen the love in your relationships, deepen the harmony in your relationships, have healthier relationships. That is my goal in making relationship education as accessible as possible. If that is something that you want to help contribute to or put your opinion into so that I teach on a subject that's really relevant to you, please go to the link, fill that out. You don't have to fill out any personal information if you don't want to. There are fields in there to fill out your name and your contact information if you want to be signed up for my newsletter, but you don't have to do that. Like, I'm purely having this survey just to get this information and not to collect your contact information. So yeah, so there's the option to sign up for my newsletter, but you don't have to. And so yeah, so take the time to do that. And I have been doing my copy chats as well. The purpose that I wanted to have behind those is that I just wanted to have more of a chat where sometimes when people reach out to me, they're not necessarily looking for education. They're not looking for coaching, which education and coaching are two separate things. I'm probably going to make a video about that, but they're not necessarily looking for education. They're not necessarily looking for coaching. They're looking more to just have a conversation about a topic because they're curious about it, because they're curious about my thoughts about it, right? And so that's what the coffee chats are for. So I've created a few of those if you want to look on my channel about that, and I'm going to continue to make that. But I also wanted to make these videos that are just really coming from the heart, coming from my soul, just something that I want to share. I don't want to package it up. I don't want to create a three bullet point outline to make sure that these specific things get hit. Although again, like, the relationship education videos are for those things and those are extremely helpful. And so I'm not poo-pooing that. It's just that I don't want to make that type of content all the time. And so this is also for my own benefit, my own sanity, so that I can come on here and I can be more expressed about things. And I don't really know how this is going to go. And I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the unknown of these videos to see what comes up. And so tuning into my own heart, tuning into my soul, tuning into my intuition, but also tapping into the collective as well, and what's been on people's heart, what's in people's soul. One of the things that has been in my heart and soul is this idea right now in our current place in history, current era, is having a love revolution. And what I mean by a love revolution is this idea that the revolution can come from and is yearning to come from a place of love. And what do I mean by that? I don't mean anything fluffy really by that. What I mean from coming from a place of love is the idea that the revolution can come from a place of seeing each other's humanity. I think love and unconditional love, when we get down to more of the root of what that is, what the essence of that is our shared humanity and the witnessing of one another and witnessing of each other's pains, understanding each other's pains, and also not, when I say unconditional love and coming from love, I don't mean unconditional relating. I don't mean that if someone does something harmful, that they should just get off scot-free because we're just supposed to love everyone. No, love holds people accountable. And love also takes responsibility. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday. We were having a coffee chat yesterday. And one of the things that got brought up in this conversation was this idea of creating safe spaces for people. And we're part of multiple different communities, and all of those communities are doing their best to create safe spaces for people. And there's where they're doing really well, and there's where they're not doing really well. And one of the things that the communities that are doing really well in creating safe spaces for people is having things in place that are about self responsibility. Yes, the organizers are putting things in place to have people be safe, but also it is on the individual to take responsibility for themselves and take responsibility for their own safety and their own actions and how their actions impact others as well. So it's both. It's like a reciprocal understanding or reciprocal relationship between the people who are leading the event or leading the community, so to speak, and the participants of that community. Because what doesn't work about some of the other spaces that are, again, they're trying to create safe spaces. And to a certain degree, they are doing that. But some of those spaces, the impetus is on the leadership to create that safe space, and it takes out the responsibility of the individual in doing that, right? And what gets missed in that, or what that creates rather, is this what's the word? What that creates is an imbalance of power dynamic. It's a giving over of power to leadership to keep everyone safe. When that's not how safety works, that's not how reciprocal relationships work, that's not how community functions best, right? Community functions best when there is power balances, right, between organizers or people leading or whatever the forward movement is, and also the people who are there participating as well, taking responsibility for the space as well. Like, it's not just on one person or a group of people, because what happens when that group of people is then responsible for the actions of other people, first of all, that's not realistic inside of relationships from a human behavior point of view. One person can't be responsible for another person's behavior. That's a little bit absurd. It's almost like a babysitter dynamic instead of an adult relationship. So what it creates is like this walking on eggshells experience with some of the participants. Oh, like I need to watch my behavior or I'm going to get in trouble. And it also creates a victim mentality with some of the participants as well. If something happens to them, then it's the organizer's fault. It's the space's fault. There's this external blame. When if it has an equal power balance, then we can look at each player and see what was the responsibility of each player. And that is not victim blaming. That's not saying that the victim of whatever harm happened is at fault, but it is taking into account the actions of each party and not placing that blame externally. It's not the victim's fault that someone over here did something harmful, but it's also not the organizer's fault either. Although they created a safe space, they cannot control other people's behavior, right? And so then it still leaves out this person or people that did harm when we're talking about, oh, what could these people have done? Rather than recognizing that there is the what can the organizers do? That is a legitimate question. But it's also what are the participants doing to maintain a level of self-responsibility as well. So that way, if there is harm done, then in an ideal world, then the person who did harm can take responsibility for what they did, and it's not the organizers or organization's fault necessarily, although they can continue to look and see what they can put in place. So does that make sense? So why I'm bringing up that example inside of this love revolution idea is that we need to think about inside of the love revolution what our dynamics are, what our responsibility is, and having healthy relationships with one another so that we can see everyone's humanity, right? So that we can look at each other and look at our relationships from the lens of healthy relating and workability rather than unhealthy relating. Because again, that unequal power balance is more from the lens of unhealthy relating. Like it's someone else's responsibility that this thing happened to me. And now I get to blame this external source, even though it's this person over here that actually did the harming. And so looking at it from a healthy perspective where it's like, okay, we're all adults here. So what is the actual workable way to hold people accountable? Because holding people accountable is in the healthy dynamic. Blaming is in the unhealthy dynamic, right? Blaming, faulting, unhealthy dynamic. And I am totally grossly oversimplifying this. But blaming, faulting is more in the unhealthy realm where it's like holding people accountable and taking responsibility is in the healthy realm of relating. And so when we're talking about a love revolution, we need to be able to, one of the reasons why I teach about healthy relationships is because I see that if people understood the differences between unhealthy relationships and healthy relationships, that we could start to parcel out that accountability and responsibility. But what tends to happen is that people hear responsibility, they hear fault and blame. They don't hear accountability and responsibility. And so when I say taking responsibility for yourself, I don't mean that like you have done something wrong or that you should be punished or that it's your fault or that you need to be blamed, which is why I'm saying like in that scenario, it's not about victim blaming. It's about looking at each player and saying, where's the accountability and where's the responsibility inside of this scenario? And inside of human dynamics, that is an easy question to ask, but it's not an easy question to answer. And one of the reasons why it's not an easy question to answer is because we have emotions, because there's charge, because it's not just this like logical scenario. It is full of emotional elements to it. There's also people have their own traumas around that. Things from the past can get triggered. People have their own beliefs and different moral compasses inside of all of this. Which is why I said earlier when I was like, this is in the healthy and this is in the unhealthy, and like that is totally grossly, what did I say? Oversimplifying. That's the word. Totally grossly oversimplifying that. I truly mean it. There's a lot more at play that is underneath the surface of relationship dynamics, whether that be one-on-one, whether that be one-to-many, whether that be many-to-many, whatever the relationship dynamic might be, there's a lot more going on underneath the surface, right? Like relationships are like an iceberg, right? There's what you see at the top, and then there's everything that's going on underneath that. And so also inside of like this idea of a love revolution is including the idea of that underneath the iceberg and understanding that underneath the iceberg, but not just understanding that, actually being able to navigate all of that underneath the iceberg, which is not an easy thing to do. It's a lot easier to look at the tip of the iceberg and judge everything that you see up here and make decisions off of it and point fingers and blame and shun and cancel. It's so much easier to do that than it is to actually look underneath the surface, see what's going on, and see how we can maneuver from there. And when I say our seeing each other for our shared humanity, I am talking about that underneath the iceberg part. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the underneath the iceberg part, the part that we can't see, the part that's harder to decipher, the part that's harder to communicate, the part that some of us don't even want to look at. That is the part that I'm talking about when I'm talking about a love revolution and seeing each other's shared humanity. Like, that is the work. That is the work. That is my work. And that's what I want to speak to. I have the education that I have up until this point, but I'm going to continue to gain more education, gain more experience around this throughout my life. I'm 36 right now, and I've been doing this for 15 years, and this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning of this. And I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited about that, and I'm really hopeful about that as well. So if you've made it to if you made it this far in the video, thank you. Glad that you're here, and subscribe to my channel if you want to learn more about healthy relating. And what we'll talk about in these skills and education videos are those skills, like the actual practical skills in your everyday relationships. What we'll talk about in the coffee chats are questions that you might have that I'll answer as if we were having a cup of coffee together. And then what I'll do in these videos, I don't know, what are these called? Soulful sharing videos, love revolution videos, I don't know, we'll figure it out. But whatever these videos are, then I'm gonna keep sharing on these videos and yeah, thank you for being here. Again, subscribe to the channel for more content, and it also helps me grow as a content creator. If you want other people to learn more about relationship building skills and having these conversations, then subscribing to my channel is an action that you can take to have that be real for other people. So subscribing is also a passing it along to others as well. So again, thank you so much for doing that. Really appreciate it. And we will see you in the next video.